A oti rā kei te kai hau tū tēnā koe. A tēnā tātou I roti te whare. A tēnā tātou he mea ke nei. Ki enei au o tātou whanaunga rangatira kua tatu mai roti te whare I tēnei pō. Hei ata whakaaro hia e ngā kōrero pahu ahara nei o ngā mema kua tūnei. Nō reira koutou rā ngā rangatira, mai hauraki, mai ngaitahu, mai ngā wāhi katoa, I kōrero hia nei ngā mema I te ahiahi nei. Tēnei rā te mihi ake ki a koutou. Aha kua tūwhakaiti, kua tūwhakahihi, anō hoki tēnei I te mea rā, ka nui tāku mōhio nā koutou nei tēnei ture arahi mai, mai e tērā rautau, taino mai ki tēnei rautau, me ki rā ka roa koutou I hikoi ana, ka roa koutou e tau tohe ana, tau patu ana, ki tēnā, ki nā kāwanatanga katoa, mai e tau hikoi I tēnei rā, nā kua tatu mai koutou, ko te mutunga rā o tau hikoi. Koe anō rā, ka nui rā te mihi aki ki a koutou. Mena, nā ka whai hua rā tēnei ture o koutou, ka whai hua te motu katoa. Nō reira tēnei rā e tu whakaiti I whakamihi ane ki a koutou. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to probably start my contribution to this debate in the same way that my colleague, Honourable Marion Street, had done doing her contribution. And that is, in the first instance, by way of acknowledgements. And I say that because I think everything pertaining to this settlement and its very, very long journey to the House this evening has already been covered many, many times over. So my contribution is really to those who made it happen. I want to acknowledge te tauihu, ngaitahu, hauraki iwi, and all those who participated in the deliberate discussions, deliberations, all the hui around the country, all the hui with government representatives, be they ministers, members of parliament, government officials, over a long period of time to ensure that this settlement was done, I would like to say in a timely manner, but I don't think it has been, but certainly in a fair way. And as the Honourable Tau Henare stated during his contribution to this third reading debate, that at no time during the discussions at the Māori Affairs Select Committee was there any sign of any dissension amongst the Select Committee members. And that was because the decisions made and the solutions provided for the previous government and this government were provided by the iwi concerned. In other words, a local solution to a local problem. And that local problem and the solution will bear benefits for all of Māoridom. And whilst I fully understand the benefits for the aquaculture industry, the top of the South Island, in fact the South Island in total, and Hauraki, I can't help but resist the attempt to boast about the benefits for myself and my whanaunga across the House when it comes to aquaculture development in the Moana Toi, that is in the rohe of Mātātua and Te Arawa and Takitimu. And so, Mr. Speaker, what are those benefits? As the House will be, and I did hear the Honourable Member Tau Henare make a very, very slight comment about the effect of the moratorium, was it 2002, on the aquaculture industry and its development. Actually, for many iwi around the country, those who are non-participants having a difficult time in participating in this industry, it was a breath of fresh air. In fact, the brakes went on. And that Māori had the opportunity to examine this industry, to look at how they could enter the industry, and the issues around water space in particular, and I'm sure that this has a lot to do with why this bill has been brought to the House, could be rationalised. I did hear the Minister make a contribution in relation to that, but having served on the Primary Reduction Select Committee during the moratorium and listened to and heard many of the submissions made, and those, to be fair, many of those submissions were opposed to the moratorium, but at the same time acknowledged that there was a problem in terms of Māori entry into the industry, although many parts of the South Island and Hauraki in particular were involved. But if I, as I said, resist the attempt to boast about the benefits for Mairohe, I'm just going to touch on a couple of issues that probably, a couple of matters that probably that I believe the House needs to be aware of. In terms of whakatohe, for example, and their entry into the aquaculture industry, when they're still waiting, they're still on hold, but it gave them the opportunity to sit down as an iwi, I'm talking about the moratorium, sit down as an iwi and discuss ways in which they could maximise the potential, the benefit for the Bay of Plenty iwi, and in this case I'm speaking about whakatohe, whānau apunui, extending right up to perhaps Tauranga Moana with Ngaitarangi Ngāti Ranginui, Ngāti Pūkenga, right up to the boundary of Hauraki, and Hauraki are here in the House tonight. And so, Mr. Speaker, when I say there needs to be acknowledgements about the passage and of this particular legislation, the benefits as well need to be acknowledged. And as my colleague, the Honourable Marion Street stated, a lot of the kudos or the acknowledgement needs to be rightly targeted or directed to the iwi who are present in the House this evening. But, Mr. Speaker, let me just say that during the Māori Affairs Select Committee deliberations, there were, as I say, no contentious issues amongst the members at the table, simply because those who made submissions made it very clear that this has gone on long enough, that the Māori exclusion from this industry had gone on long enough. The outstanding issues around the Māori fishery settlement in the early 90s needed to be resolved, and that iwi themselves, those affected iwi, needed to provide a proper solution to ensure that Māori were secured water space and that they could enter into that industry. And I do recall at the time a presentation by the Ohu Kaimoana, and their contribution to the advancement of this legislation has been acknowledged. But I received a paper this afternoon that actually detailed the nature of the work that they were involved in, and that was actually news to me. So I need to acknowledge Peter Douglas and his team, the former head of Te Tohu Kaimoana, my colleague, the Honourable Shane Jones, and other commissioners as well. You see, Mr. Speaker, the work they were involved in was basically background work to ensure that Māori understood had in front of them all the information required to understand the industry. And when I read the paper, I thought to myself, well, isn't this a bit like how you would approach land development and understanding the value of your product and what the value of the product brings to your land? Unlike, and this is very similar in terms of aquaculture, understanding your product and understanding what the value of that product brings to the value of the water space that you have. See, Mr. Speaker, I come to the Bay of Plenty. I'm Te Moana Toi. While I'm belong to a coastal iwi, my background is in agriculture and horticulture. So I understand what the value of products and the value of those products bring to the value of your land. And when I read through the background work that the Ohu Kaimoana had involved in, it reminded me very much of the work that the old Māori Affairs Department used to do in terms of developing Māori farms and adding value to Māori land through farming in an appropriate and marketable way. And my family are dairy farmers, but my family are now looking very closely at Te Moana Toi, at the opportunities that will come out of the passage of this legislation, and looking forward to developing our coastline on Te Moana Toi, that many are also at the moment in negotiations with local authorities to ensure that will happen. And so, Mr. Speaker, I thank the iwi representatives here in the House this evening. I also thank once again the ministers, the acting minister who's brought the bill through its final and third and final reading. I acknowledge also the speed in which the former Minister of Fisheries, General Paul Heatley, acted when he was appointed